Welcome back, Wargamers, to another edition of Budget Wargamer, and we want to go over some of the new Games Workshop pre-releases that I'm personally very excited about. This is the Adeptus Custodes, and they've got some pre-releases out right now for pre-order, some fantastic art, and these are one of the coolest backstories, I think, in the whole Warhammer 40K universe. So up for pre-order is the rulebook, the full, let's go to it. We've got the collector's edition version of the codex. We've got the Allarus collection, which includes that in the rulebook and the data cards. But you've got the custodian collection with the basic edition of the codex and the data cards. And the models I've already gone ahead and pre-ordered. Captain General Trajann Valoris. This guy is just awesome. He was teased on the Warhammer community Facebook page after they had reached a milestone number of members. And now it's making sense where the lion's head had come from on one of their teaser shots. A lot of people were expecting it to be Lionel Russ. It turns out that it was actually just this guy all along. So let's go ahead and bring in the 360. And you'll see right here where the lion's head came from. So it wasn't a white lion's character from the High Elves or anything like that. It was actually just this dude. So he is the Captain General, and they're stating that he is one of the most powerful characters in the entire Imperium. So we take a little bit of data from Fayette. They've also previewed next week's pre-orders, which we'll take a look at. It's more Adeptus Custodes. So these guys are getting a full release. Now I've got, I think, 5 or 6 of the 5-man squads. Actually working on putting together some of those guys. So the bodies, it's actually pretty hard to put them together with the halberds, the spears, whatever you want to call them. I prefer the sword and the shield. They just don't seem to be as tactically versatile that way. So let's scroll through here. There's just so much breaking down about these guys. There's even some other stuff coming out. I think some Thousand Suns or something like that coming out there. But somewhere in here they had the rules for him the other day. Well, I think I'm going to miss it. So close. But let's go back to him here. $35, typical going rate for a commander, but it's good to see an actual character model for the army. Now, there are going to be options in each of the new kits that are coming out to custom build your own shield captains and characters, but this one's a named character, so he's got some special stats to him that you won't find somewhere else. So, and his weapon also appears to be a bit different than some of the options you could put together. There's a picture of him with some of the other pre-releases. Now, if you haven't picked up the Forge World Dreadnoughts, I like what they've done here on this Dreadnought to make it a little bit more Adeptus Custodes on the Contemptor. Now, that bit, at first I wondered where it had come from, and then I realized it's just there. It's one of the Vexilis Standard Bearer wings. So, and you also get part of an eagle's body on there as well if you're looking at trying to make those Contemptor Dreadnoughts even more Custode style. So here's what the sprue is going to look like when you break it out. It's just a few key components: body, legs, arm, lion's head, back, arm, cape. And there's actually got to be one more sprue. There has to be, right? Where's his head at? All right. Feels like there's a sprue missing. But it might not be, because that is most of his body, right? No, his weapon's not there, so they're not showing the full sprue. There we go. This is where the rest of the bits come from. So yeah, definitely a lot of detail there. It'd be cool if they almost gave him a helmeted version, but I guess if you really wanted to, you could just swap out, buy a second one of these and then put a helmet on them if you wanted to. But there he is again. That's Captain General Trajann Valoris. He's one of the many pre-orders. So let's take a look at the other pre-order for the Allarus Custodians. So this is a 3-man box set. So these guys are in a special type of Terminator armor, and they've got a grenade launcher. It's actually not a bolter. It's a type of grenade launcher built into their left wrist, and then they come with the option of either having the axes or having the spears that the typical Adeptus Custodes have. So despite the fact that I'd really like to see how big these guys are in person, because the regular Adeptus Custodes are already on 40mm bases, and these guys are also on 40mm bases. So it'd be interesting to see how much bulkier they end up being and whether they actually stand out as being more like a Terminator. But then again, the armor that's already on the regular Adeptus Custodes are it's pretty beefy as is. I mean, they got some of the best armor saves out there in the entire universe. So there they are. Here's one of the options. I think that's one of the options to build the shield captain, because he's got some more filigree down there in the cod piece, or whatever you want to call that. A couple different sprues coming in that box set too. I think 2 sprues, so expect a small clamshell. But these guys, got to pick up a couple of them, I think, because you're going to build a character, at least a shield captain out of one of them. I'm going to make my Praetor Vexilla, or whatever you call that guy with the standard bearer. I'm probably going to make that out of one of these guys, even though I've already built one so far from the regular set. But got to kind of have one of each for the sake of completion. But these guys are $50 for a set of 3. I'd probably, like I said, I'd probably recommend, for at least modeling sake, maybe not necessarily for gameplay sake, picking up a couple sets of them. You can, of course, always pick up the regular Custodian Guard Squad. They're going to make up your troop choice for the set. So that is this week's pre-orders. And then there are, of course, other things you can purchase. Oh, there's dice. These are cool if you like to go with custom dice. I'm not a big fan of them myself, but now let's take a look. There's also pre-orders coming up for the following week. That might have just been unfair. So let's go back here and let's take a look at what they're saying as of today is going to be the new releases for next week. So it says next weekend's pre-order. So you can't pre-order these guys yet, but you'll expect to see these guys on the website following the release of the current pre-orders that we just showed you. So here in this set is going to be a set of 3 of the jet bikes. And these guys are different than the ones that come from Forge World. Not only are they going to hopefully be a heck of a lot cheaper. Let's see if they even give a crack at the price for these guys. If your army's Custodian... Oh, and then Custodian Wardens. So these are different than the normal Adeptus Custodes. So check these guys out. Got to get at least one set of these guys. They're going to come in a 5-man set, and the ability to build a really cool looking character that would be different than the ones in the other set we showed you. So 1,000 Suns, of course. So previously I had not really ever played these guys in 40K, because you could only really have the Contemptor Dreadnoughts in the really vanilla format. Then you could have these guys, and there were no characters. It was just it lacked so much versatility. But in the Forge World sector, there was like all this stuff for the Horus Heresy, and the Horus Heresy plays quite a bit like 7th edition, 40K 7th edition. But they had recently come out with the Aquian Terminators models finally, and these guys have Infernus Fire Pikes, which are pretty cool. Then all the armor that goes with them. So I'm not a big fan of Land Raiders, never have been, but I do think that the armor that these guys bring in the Horus Heresy is quite quirky and original. But take a second to load up some of that detail. These guys are cool too, but I don't think that... I really wouldn't expect a lot of these types of Forge World kits to get their special rules. I've picked up so far one of the Contemptor Goliath Dreadknights, and then the other Dreadnought, and then one of the other ones that has the Halberd, which I actually really enjoyed putting that one together. I have yet to pick up this monster of a Dreadnought, and it's really because of the pricing. But take a look at how massive this one is, and a normal Space Marine doesn't even make it up to his ankles, so he's not quite as tall as an Imperial Knight, but he's up there. He's a massive war machine. Oh, this is a close-up here of the Goliath Dreadknight, or Dreadnought, with the last cannon and basically a force weapon. So these guys are incredible. But I don't know if, like I said, I don't think they'll be in 40K, and I don't know how they, basically how they'll work out. But so that's that. Let us comment below what you guys think. If this is exciting to you guys, we can always start covering some more of the upcoming pre-orders and new releases. I'll have these in my hands possibly next weekend. Not the jet bikes, but the other sets that we talked about that were on pre-order, so that way we can go over those. And then I owe you guys a painting class on these, which is why I'm actually putting them together, so that way you guys can figure out, they're one of the easiest 40K models to paint up. I think they're actually easier than Space Marines. And the reason I think so is that Space Marines have so many smooth surfaces that they are misleadingly difficult to paint well. And these guys, on the other hand, having so much texture in them and also being generally painted in a metallic color, tend to lend themselves really well to layering, dry brushing, and shading, aka washing. So I'm going to paint some of these guys up. I've already done up some of the Dreadnoughts and the Contemptor Dreadnoughts, so I'm just going to have to stick to the troops. But stay tuned for those. It'll probably be next week when we'll break out the two new releases and the how-to on how to paint these guys.